This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports, with your distinguished hosts, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the UCF Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
Yes, welcome back into episode 178 of the Sons of UCF, brought to you now by Gordon and Partners. My name is Adam, and as always, my partner, on the show at least, is Mr. UCF Mike. Awkward opening, Mike, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. This recovering from a weekend of nonstop draft coverage.
Yes, you are.
Locked into the draft I was
I
over
know.
the last few days. So still recovering, but doing well.
Well, I'm glad you're doing well, and some Knights are doing well, too. We'll get to that in a second, Mike. We've got a new game we're going to debut this evening. You guys are really going to like this. Cow of the Week, of course, as always. And a fun interview with Ryan Anders. He is a 4-year player on the men's basketball team, and you might not know his name. He wasn't necessarily a stat stuffer per se, but he's got some really good insight. He tells some good stories, some funny stories. So stick around for Ryan Anders here in a little bit, Mike. And while you're sticking around, do us a favor. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us on social media. And bookmark 2nightsmedia.com, by the way. That's a good spot for you to be in. And we'll appreciate you for doing that, Mike. NFL draft. I know you were glued to the coverage. I know you just got out of the bunker. You told me you were giving out draft grades to everybody. I know Mel Kiper called you. You guys were comparing notes. So I know you were very prepared, and you can probably talk specifically about the one Knight who got drafted, Kalia Davis, 6th-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers, Mike. Obviously, KD coming off an ACL injury still gets picked. Probably tells you how much San Francisco really valued him, and probably some other teams as well. Kalia Davis to the Niners, Mike. Your assessment is what?
I think the Niners got a steal in this one. If he doesn't have that injury, we're talking maybe a 3rd-round pick. You know, a lot sooner than where he went. So once he's fully healthy again, I believe I forget who it was, say that he in his pro day benched more than any defensive lineman or any defensive tackle in his position. He was the strongest guy. So we've seen him play. We see what he can do up close and personal. He's going to get a shot in San Francisco. I think he'll make that team out there, and he's got a nice career ahead of him.
Yeah, the John Lynch, the Niners GM, at the draft day press conference said that it's possible that Kalia starts off on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform, while he still recovers, and they're not 100% sure that he'll be ready for camp. But to your point, I mean, you don't take a risk on that guy in the 6th round if you don't think he's got potential. You probably could have gotten him, as an undrafted free agent. But I think other teams also valued KD, so I think he's got a legit shot. Here's the thing that maybe Knights fans will enjoy. The Niners select him specifically because they felt like the scheme that UCF ran on defense this past season very much fits the same kind of scheme that they run. So they like the fact that KD had some experience running a very similar system. So for all of us out there who are kind of like wondering how T. Will would adapt as a D coordinator, NFL guys are looking at film and going, hey, this guy fits with what we do. So maybe that's a nice little feather in the cap, Mike.
Yeah, that's a great thing. When you're recruiting new players, you want to be able to tell them, hey, we're running the stuff the NFL is running. When O'Leary was here, we were running that pro-style offense that a lot of colleges were not running, but our guys were prepared when they went to the NFL. The offensive linemen, even quarterbacks. Nowadays, offensive linemen, in college, they're only blocking for guys out of the shotgun. Then all of a sudden they get to the NFL and you're going pro-style, under center. It's a whole different ballgame, and that's why I think you see the offensive line all across the NFL. The play is not as good as it used to be. So to run a similar defense like we are here at UCF that professional teams are running, I think that's a great thing that we're able to tell recruits, hey, come here, and NFL teams are running the same stuff, and this is going to be good for your career.
Well, and hopefully it's good for Kalia's career. Again, such a nice dude, Mike. He's been on, I think, everybody's podcast. He's been on, every show that's imaginable. He walks around the cabana. He's up in the luxury boxes. I mean, he's so accessible to fans, and he's such a great rep for UCF. I think everybody, coast to coast, if you're a UCF fan, I mean, you had to smile when you saw Kalia get drafted, Mike. And, you hope he sticks up. Hopefully the knee really is kind of, to your point, the only thing that you go, okay, can Can he come back from that? We saw his rehab videos, though. I mean, the dude was squatting like literally on his way out of surgery. So it seems like he's got, the right trajectory, but I guess you never know with knees. But I mean, everyone just ecstatic for Kalia Davis.
Yeah, absolutely. Great kid. We've got to speak to him a couple times. We talked to him during halftime of one of the games when we were doing the spaces. I think it was the Memphis game earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
You got to meet him up in the cabana. Very good dude. He's always got a smile on his face. So I'm happy for him. And he kept the streak alive because if it wasn't for him, we would have had nobody drafted here.
Yeah.
And it's been since 2016, which was coming off that winless season, the last time we didn't have anybody drafted.
Well, that to your point, that was the only draft pick that we had called, but some Knights did get their names called. Mike, let's run through these one at a time here. First and foremost, Cole Schneider signs an undrafted free agent deal with the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Cole played right guard for us, but he did play some center, so they've got some versatility. O-line depth is always an important cog in the NFL machine. There aren't too many dudes walking around with that size and that weight that can actually move like this, so finding guys like that's a premium. You got to give Cole an outside shot on this team. I saw Rini Angolia tweeted essentially that Cole fits perfectly with what the sort of the DNA of the Green Bay Packers are. So hopefully Cole gets a shot and he signs on with Green Bay. We've had success with UCF O linemen in Green Bay.
That's right. That's the first thing I thought of was Josh Sitton had a very nice career over there. Obviously he was drafted, but still, you see our guys go there and to play with Aaron Rodgers, that guy's going to make you look good anyway. So I think Cole's got a very good shot at catching on.
Staying in the offensive line ranks, as predicted by yours truly pretty much every year, the annual UCF Knight to Jacksonville turns out to be Marcus Tatum. Again, another offensive lineman, former guest on the Sons UCF show. Really nice guy, Mike, a good kid. He'll get a chance to travel up the road from Orlando up to Jacksonville to a rebuilding Jaguar situation where I don't know where their own line is at, right? Because obviously Urban Meyer left some things in flux. New head coach and Doug Peterson. Trevor Lawrence obviously needs some protection. I don't know what his chances are. I have no idea what they're thinking O-line wise, but I mean they're definitely a unit that needs something. And you wonder if a young guy like Marcus Tatum can't crack, maybe the 53-man roster with his versatility. We know he's fast, right? He's got some speed. I'm curious to see what his prospects are because I don't think anyone knows what the hell's going on in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's a team that always seems to be picking at the top of the draft. But, and it's good to see him stay close to home. And his family will be able to go see him play. He gets out there in the preseason and gets a shot. Hopefully he's able to catch on. Even if not there, he can put something good on tape. And if he goes somewhere else, there's always opportunities for offensive linemen. You can never have too many of those guys.
Yeah.
So he's going to get his chance somewhere.
Well, it's just a math equation. There are not that many people that large walking the face of the earth. So when you find one that has some skill, I mean, even if he's on a practice squad, heck, Wyatt Miller is still bouncing around from practice squad to practice squad because of his skill and his size and his experience. So you gotta think that if there's a position that maybe you get a chance, I think aren't the McRae's both still playing? I think one's in the USFL, I think one's in the NFL. So large human beings like that can block and can move usually get opportunities. So hopefully Marcus gets that chance, Mike. Another undrafted signee, Brandon Johnson, wide receiver, signs with the Denver Broncos. Obviously, Brandon only with us one season, but led us in touchdown receptions last year. Mike, he'll be heading up to Denver, maybe catching balls from Russell Wilson, who knows. But BJ to the Broncos. He obviously was a really solid receiver, maybe not the top-end speed, but you wonder kind of where he fits in the NFL game.
Very reliable receiver. We saw that last year. Caught a touchdown in almost every game. And I think it was you that made the prediction that he's going to be the guy out of this class that's going to have the longest NFL career. Is that right?
I said that. That's possible. I said that. It sounds like something I would say.
I thought you tweeted that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know. But, I loved watching this guy play. He's a hard worker. And another guy, if it comes down to who's going to work the hardest, and he's definitely going to make that team.
Yeah, he seems like a solid pro, like a pro's pro. Again, he came to UCF and, again, played really well. I don't know that he's going to be a speedster or a burner, but, he may be one of those guys who, comes in off the bench, maybe he's on the practice squad. So I hope he gets an opportunity. He's got a professional background. We always forget his dad is Charles Johnson, the old Marlins catcher. So he's got at least a little background in pro sports. Maybe that gives him a leg up on professionalism. Who knows, Mike? And then maybe the most exciting thing for me is your boy Big Cat Bryant is going to put the star on the helmet, Mike. Big Cat to the Cowboys. Signs an undrafted free agent deal there. He was somebody that, fringe, you wondered if he would get picked. But he went pretty quickly at Dallas, which leads you to believe he had some opportunities. Dallas has some needs on D line. We let Randy Gregory go to Denver, and they rotated a bunch of young guys last year in the line. I think Big Cat has an outside shot of cracking that roster if he can play well in the camps, Mike. But I know this is a tough one for you. You're a Giants fan, but Big Cat to the Cowboys.
Yeah, this was rough. I did not like to see this. I mean, obviously, I wanted him to catch on somewhere. Dallas, Philadelphia, Washington, anywhere but those three places I was fine with. Now, he's going to go. If he goes on and has a Hall of Fame career, it's with the Cowboys. It's kind of hurting me, but good luck to him. It's good for you, at least. You get to watch him. You get to be a big fan. If he turns into a star,
maybe, yeah.
All of a sudden, you know how much I loved Big Cat during this season. Every week, he was my guy. I would always hype him up before the game.
Gato Grande.
He's dead. Yeah, he's dead to me now. At least until he moves on to a different team. And then I'll be back on the Big Cat bus.
Again, he has an outside shot. I mean, Dallas had an attacking defense last year. They went really young on defense because we're paying our offensive linemen like $30 million a year to not block. So he may have an outside chance. Obviously, Tristan Hill still on the Cowboys as well. They obviously didn't play together, but a couple of UCF connections there. It's always weird when you have – Dallas has not had a lot of UCF guys on its roster. I know the Giants – your Giants have had some players. I know Darcy Johnson, Michael Greco, I think was there for a hot minute. And obviously this year you have both Jordan Akins and Aaron Robinson. But it's kind of weird when a Knight lands in Dallas. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, what's even worse is when you get a Cal. And luckily, they haven't put anybody in the NFL
in a decade. Yeah,
but when you get a Cal on your team, I didn't know what to feel. When the Giants drafted JPP, I was kind of pissed.
Yeah,
he turned out to be fantastic for those few years, and I loved him. And then he blew his hand off, and we know the rest of the thing. But, having a UCF guy on your team and having him be good, it'd be fantastic. If Brandon Marshall was a Giant his whole career, I would have lost my mind, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, if you go to the NFL, if you're not on the Giants, and I just want you out of the NFC East so you don't hurt me twice a year, and ideally you'd have a career like Asante Samuel, where borderline Hall of Fame. You have a fantastic career. You're running back interceptions all the time, and then the one time against my team, you dropped the interception that would have ended the season. So that worked out perfectly. But, all these guys, I'm going to root for them, but depending on which team they're on, is going to have a big factor in that too.
Oh, don't tell Asante he's a borderline Hall of Famer, Mike. He will come after you for that one. So you've got the list of names here, and again, still some guys that have not signed. Most notably, Mike, I think we were all rooting for Mackenzie Milton to get an opportunity. It was probably a long shot for his name to get called on draft night or any of the draft nights, but no word yet on Mackenzie. That's a bummer. I think we all hope the story would continue. There's still some shots, CFL, maybe one of these spring leagues coming up, Mike, but unfortunately still no word on anything for Mackenzie Milton.
Yeah, it's something I think we pretty much saw coming. That injury he suffered is so brutal. He was lucky to even be walking again. He was lucky to even have his leg. And to even come back and play football alone was an amazing accomplishment. To make the NFL would have been something ridiculous if he could have pulled that off. But, there's still a chance for him to get paid to play football. And there's other leagues out there. If he doesn't catch on here in the next couple of days with an NFL team, I think the USFL may take a look at him. There was a Canadian team that already drafted him years ago when he was with UCF. So maybe that's still an option. And if not, we know how much he's always talked about getting into coaching. You may see him on a sideline someday very soon.
Yeah, I think he's been around UCF a ton. He's obviously building some rapport with the Gus Malzahn staff. Obviously, he's involved with some stuff with the NIL thing. So hopefully he hangs around. And again, never say never, right? To your point, one of these leagues could give him a call, or he could get an opportunity to at least get to a camp of some sort. So we will see what that looks like, Mike. Really quickly, though, out of the names, Cole, Marcus Tatum, Big Cat, Brandon Johnson, Kalia Davis, the longest NFL tenured career will belong to whom?
Ooh. You know what? Give me Cole Schneider.
Oh.
Give me this guy as a hard worker. He's going to get to the league. Maybe, hopefully he catches on in Green Bay. That'd be a great spot for him. But I think at some point he gets in there, and then once he does, he has a nice NFL career.
That's a good pick. He was my option there as well. I was going to go Kalia Davis. I mean, I think it's the easiest pick probably, but I think he's got the skills, the motor, the experience. I think he may have an opportunity to play a long time. But I mean, those line positions are tough, Mike. Shelf life in the NFL is what, 2.5, 3 years top, something like that. So, and any of these guys getting a chance in the league, and we'll see. Obviously, for Cole, for Marcus, for Big Cat, and for Brandon, really nothing's guaranteed. They have, basically they're undrafted rookie free agents. So there's not a ton of stability there. Really, there's probably no stability in any position unless you're drafting like the first 3 rounds. So we'll see what holds up there, Mike. Other really quick football news. UCF has cracked the top 5, Mike. I know you're a big fan of top 5s. So we've got one for you here tonight. Malik Bryant. He is either a 4 or a 5 star, depending upon how you want to look at it. Linebacker. He's out of Orlando. UCF made his top 5 schools, Mike, battling up against USC, battling against Alabama, Florida, and the University of Miami. And you can throw UCF in there, Mike. Making the top 5 for a rival's top 100 player. Is this something we should be excited about? Is this something that we should take it as a badge of honor that we're getting into these conversations? Or is this all much ado about nothing because A, the NIL thing, and B, because, well, the NIL thing?
I mean, you can get excited because we're still alive. I mean, we still have a chance to convince this kid to come to Orlando. He's from Orlando. That may give us a little bit of an advantage. But you mentioned the NIL thing. I mean, we're not going to compete with the money that some of these other schools are going to offer him. Maybe the money is not the most important thing to this kid. You never know. Everybody's a little different. Maybe he just wants to be a mega star here in his hometown team. The hometown hero is what Gus has been preaching the last couple of years since he's been here. There's a chance. So I'm not going to tell you don't get excited, but I wouldn't start throwing parties yet just because we're in the top 5. These kids change their list every 5 minutes. We could be in the top 5 today. We might not be in it tomorrow. Who the heck knows? But it's nice to see that we're actually in the conversation with. We're talking about some of the best players in the country. I mean, I think he's ranked number 7 overall or something like that, or 7 in the state. So it's nice. It's nice for now. Let's close the deal on a couple of these guys.
Yeah, this has some Curtis Perry vibes, right? Where we were down to the final 2 or 3, and obviously kind of came up short. Same thing. Obviously, we're going against some, some of the schools that probably have deeper pockets than we do. He had some really nice things to say about UCF and the staff and connecting. But we've said this before. I mean, ideally, we want to start winning these battles, right? I think when you and I talked about recruiting way back in the day, what we wanted to do was win the battles against Pittsburgh and West Virginia and Wake Forest and Maryland, right? We wanted to win those battles, and we felt like if we did more of that, we'd have an opportunity. Well, Gus was like, yeah, forget you all. I'm going to win battles against Alabama and Auburn and Florida and Miami. We haven't won any of those just yet. I mean, I guess we won some. The Twins, I think, had Miami offers, and a couple of guys had some Florida offers. But this would be a monumental occasion if we can kind of cement ourselves on this one. So, but if it doesn't, I think the Gus strategy has been as follows: recruit these kids hard out of high school, let them know UCF's a spot for them, let them know how much that the staff cares about them, how much they're going to play here. Let them go to Alabama, let them go to Auburn, let them go to Georgia, let them sit for a year, and then we'll take them back in the portal. So either way, it feels like a really good strategy, and it feels like something Gus has been setting up, is getting in the conversation early. Even if you miss on round 1, maybe you get another shot on round 2.
That's right, and that's the age we're living in now. We don't have to wait for these kids to sit out for a year or anything like that. If they don't like where they're at next season, guess who's going to be knocking on their door at this time? The Gus bus is going to roll in and sweep these kids in, and we'll have, just like we have now, a 5-star recruit. You maybe end up with a couple of those, maybe a year after they come into college, but still, 5-star recruit nonetheless.
One other news and note item football-wise, Mike, Brandon Jennings, that may be a name that rings a bell for some folks. He was a 4-star linebacker out of Jacksonville, went to Maryland his freshman year, was teammates with Terrence Lewis. Decided to transfer at the same time Terrence did, went to Kansas State in January, enrolled there, and surprise, he's already back in the portal, Mike. And there are obviously the reports that UCF, I think he announced on social media tonight, UCF has re-offered him. No idea if that means he can play right away, if he needs some sort of a waiver, that obviously to be adjudicated, Mike. But linebacker being a position of need, Brandon Jennings, again, a 4-star guy out of Florida, that could be a possibility, right? It's something we definitely need. We need some more depth in the linebackers. We're losing them left and right.
We definitely can use some linebackers. I'm afraid that one day I'm going to get a call and ask if I can play linebacker the way that we keep losing guys at that position. But, well, if this kid's willing to come here, that'd be a great step in the right direction.
Speaking of transfers, Mike, let's go to basketball really quickly. UCF picked up some transfer commits. Brandon Suggs from ECU is coming in. Michael Durr from Indiana, a 7-footer, is coming in. And then news this weekend that Lahat Chu, I think I said that name right, 6'10" kid from I think Melbourne originally, went to Utah. He's 6'10". He averaged 1.6 points a game and 1.8 rebounds a game. He is now coming to UCF as well. So Dawkins continues to try to find some folks in the portal, Mike. Are you excited about the Suggs, Durr, and Chu era coming to UCF?
Excited? No, I wouldn't use that word.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the reasons we're getting these kids is because everybody else left. So it's going to be a different team, which that could get me excited a little bit because I kind of wasn't liking the way this team this year was playing. So, I'll let you know by December of next year if I'm excited or not with these guys. I'm going to see them play a few games.
Okay. Well, I will sit tight. I will stand by as Mike decides whether or not he is excited or not, and that'll be fun too, Mike. Let's get into a new game. That's probably all we got for news and notes and headlines. Nothing else really super exciting, and anything else that's breaking we will cover on Thursday on the live show, Mike. Let's get into a new game, Mike, and this new game is inspired by our friends at Gordon & Partners, Mike. The Sons of UCF is proudly presented by the law firm of Gordon & Partners. Since 1993, Gordon & Partners have been dedicated to the pursuit of justice for those who have been wrongfully injured at no fault of their own. It is important that you get legal advice from somebody you trust, and the great news here is that UCF alum Michael Hoffman works at Gordon & Partners, and he wants you to contact him directly if you have any legal needs or questions. Folks, messing around with a lawyer is serious business. You need to know you have somebody that you can trust. They'll give you good advice. They'll take care of you. Michael Hoffman is your guy. A couple of ways you can get in touch with him. You can go to the website. That is fortheinjured.com. Or, Mike, look, this is how much Michael really cares about you at Knight fans. He's going to give you his personal cell phone number, 407-913-5350. Again, 407-913-5350. Send him a text message. Give him your name. Tell him when you heard about him on the Sons UCF. Let him know you have a legal question. He will pick up the phone. He'll get in touch with you. If he can't help you, he'll find somebody who can because he just wants to help Knight fans. That's the kind of guy Michael Hoffman is. So make sure you give him a call if you have legal needs. Again, fortheinjured.com or text 407-913-5350. Don't just trust anybody. Trust the best and trust a Knight. Gordon & Partners for the injured, Mike. And this week's show, we're going to do the game. And the game is called I Object. Here's how it works. I'm going to give you a statement, Mike, and you get to play lawyer on me here. You get to tell me if you object to my statement, okay? So I'm going to give you an outlandish, outrageous. This may sound a lot like charge on, charge off, but it really isn't, by the way. I'm going to give you an outrageous statement, and you tell me whether or not you object to it. It's pretty simple. I think you got the gist. I think everyone can figure it out. Are you prepared? Are you ready?
Well, I think my wife has been watching that Johnny Depp trial every day, and Amber Heard lawyer is objecting to everything, so
yeah,
I may be full of objections here myself.
Okay, all right, here you go. Here's the first one, Mike. Here's my outlandish statement. Josh Heupel personally is directly responsible for the lack of players UCF has had drafted the last 2 years. Do you object to that or not?
What's the opposite of objecting? I agree with it.
Overruled.
I think it's very clear that, so last year's class, we had 5 guys drafted, right? How many of those guys was Heupel responsible for? Any? Couple, 1 or 2?
No, see, this is research I have to do again. It's interesting. Let me search that. Yeah. I mean,
Richie Grant was a Frost guy, right?
Right. Aaron Robinson, I think he was already here. Jacob Harris was already here. Tate Gowan, I guess, came in.
Okay.
So, but I don't know that I would say it was him.
Even Kalia Davis, I believe, was recruited by Frost.
Yeah, Trey Nixon was already here. I mean, Tate Gowan is technically the only one, I guess, on this list that quote-unquote committed to Josh Heupel.
All right, and he didn't even play for him his last year.
Correct.
So, We talked about it before this season started. Which guys were going to be drafted? That was the problem the last couple of years. Is that the talent in the senior class and the juniors and seniors the last couple of years has not been what it was the couple of years before that under Frost and even going back to O'Leary. So we see why we only had one guy drafted this year, and it's because of the guys that Heupel brought in. Now, even this year too, Big Cat Bryant is not a Heupel guy. He didn't get drafted, but he's on an NFL roster now. So I have to agree with the statement that Heupel is the reason why the talent had dropped off the last couple of years, and it's reflected in the records.
Brandon Johnson, I mean, he's undrafted though, I guess, so it doesn't really count. But he was a Heupel, I guess, transfer portal recruit.
All right, I'm going on that one.
that's about. Yeah, look, I think
he didn't even play for Heupel.
He did not. No, he did not. Look, I think it's interesting. I mean, Marcus Tatum, I guess, also was recruited by Heupel to transfer here. But it's interesting though that you look at where we were in draft classes before, and you see these big names, and to your point, you wonder where the next names are coming from, and you look at the record on the field. You look at some of the recruiting rankings and kind of where we were. We're big in Germany, by the way, but apparently we didn't get any of the Germans drafted just yet. And you can draw a parallel if you really want to draw the parallel. You can draw the parallel between on-field performance, between recruiting rankings, and between guys we're not putting in the league. And to your point, UCF's had a nice run of guys who have made it in the league since that 2017 season, since sort of that run started. And names that names that are still productive: Traquan Smith, Gabe Davis, Richie Grant. I mean, these are names that are playing pretty big roles on Sundays. And so we'll see how that stems, Mike. Because in theory, I mean, this next draft class? I mean, I guess there could be some Malzahn guys if you're going to do the portal stuff, but we still have maybe one more year of Heupel draft options available, right? In theory, this year.
Yeah, and he's only been gone for a year, so a few of these years are his guys, but he was only here for a couple of years himself, so we may be done with the Heupel recruiting classes after this season.
All right, here's our next one. So Mike is in agreement with my statement. No objection there. I love that, Mike. Here's the next one for you. You always have to root for former UCF players after they transfer. Do you object to that statement?
After they transfer?
After they transfer. It doesn't matter. Once a night, always a night, Mike. Once a night, always a night.
I highly object to that.
Wow.
But,
okay.
And that's another thing. Once a night, always a night.
Once a night, always a night, Mike.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
Once a night, always a night.
In the day and age we live in, no, that's not true. It's not once a night. You're a night when you're a night, and if you decide to go somewhere else, then you're not a night anymore. I mean, you played for us once. We're living in an age of free agency. College sports is completely different now than it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. You go to a place and you're there and you see it through. Now these guys are, they're here one day and they're gone the next. I don't think it.
Once a night, always a night, Mike.
The whole NIL stuff, because who wants to buy a T-shirt of a guy that's going to be here for a year and then the next year they're in a different school? To me, it doesn't work out well. I don't buy them once a night, always a night.
Once a night, always a night, Mike.
That is not true in my book, so I object to that statement.
Yeah, this.
I will not be rooting for guys because if they transfer to Florida State, Darren Green, I'm sorry, goodbye. You're out. Then I'm not rooting for him over there.
Yeah, this came up because somebody tweeted something about, and it was really innocuous if you ask me. It was basically, don't look at Dylan Gabriel's Twitter if you don't want to see it, right? And Tatum Bethune, from out of nowhere, who obviously himself transferred to Florida State, basically had a quote tweet that said, like, y'all love the kid one day, you hate him the next day, he's better than himself, it's a better situation for him, why can't y'all just be happy for people, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, Tatum got a bunch of comments back to him. I think he's since deleted his Twitter account. I'm not sure if that's because of that tweet or what the case is, Mike. But I think you have the key distinction there is there's rooting for somebody, and there's just really not caring anymore, right? Like, I'm not going to actively root for Darren Green. I'm not going to root against him. I'm not going to tune into every game and hope he goes 0 for 75. but I'm not going to also follow him intently. I'm not going to, if I happen to be watching a game and Florida State basketball is playing and Darren Green is playing in the game, I'm not going to be at the edge of my seat and cheering every time he hits a shot. And similarly with a lot of the football guys, same thing with Tatum Bethune. I'm not going to be cheering if he makes a big tackle, but I'm not going to actively go find him or find my way to root against him. But I do think circumstance matters. I think how you leave places matters. We've all had, opportunities to leave certain places, leave relationships, and the phrase, burning bridges is a phrase for a reason. I don't think you have to root for everybody, but that doesn't mean you root against them, if that makes sense. You can just be indifferent at this point. I think that's my perspective. Is I'm just indifferent about Dillon Gabriel, about Tatum Bethune, about Darren Green. I never want to see anybody get hurt, but I'm indifferent in terms of the rest of their careers, both in college and even maybe professionally.
Yeah, once they are putting on a jersey of a different school, I don't care anymore. When they're here, I'm supporting them. They're my guys. But this has turned into professional sports, and I've dealt with it there forever. You're on the Yankees. The next year you could be on the Red Sox, and I hate your guts.
Yeah.
So, same thing here. I'm not afraid to say it. I root for the laundry. I root for the school, and players come and go, but that's it. I'm a black and gold. Whoever's on my team, you're with me. Then you're my guy. Once you leave, then that's what I do. The same thing with guys that go to the NFL. They could have been here for 4 years and given everything to UCF. But I mentioned it earlier. You go to the Cowboys, I don't like you anymore. I'm sorry. That's it. You're wearing colors that go against everything I believe in. So,
sure.
So that's just the way it is. I'm a fan first. We've gotten the chance to speak to a lot of these guys, and it turns out pretty much all of them are fantastic kids. So, good luck to them. If they're doing what they feel is best for themselves, then fine. But doesn't mean I'm going to follow them and root for them everywhere they go.
All right, you're going to love this next one then. This is tangentially related to that. Here we go. You always have to root for your former conference opponents' players when they get into the NFL, unless, of course, they're playing against your team. So you should always be rooting for fellow American Conference guys to be successful in the NFL, Mike. Always.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I thought the last thing was the dumbest thing you ever heard.
I object.
Okay, thank you.
I never rooted for these guys when they were in college. All of a sudden, I'm going to start rooting for them now because of the conference that they played in? Well, why would I care? What do I care? If some kid from Tulsa turns out to be a superstar, that makes me feel better? No. I don't care about anybody else outside of my guys, like I just went through. And if you're a guy that made me suffer, you're a guy that beat me, you're a Desmond Ritter that beat me the last 3 years, I'm going to root for him now and be a fan of his? Why? Why would I do that? That sounds stupid.
Yeah. This caught wind on social media. A lot of UCF fans and Cincinnati fans going back and forth over Desmond Ritter. A lot of us basically saying, like, we never really thought he was all that great anyway, but best of luck in the NFL career. And some people saying, no, you should root for him. It just shows how strong our conference is. And it just kind of blew up. And I'm in the same boat. Like, if you're not on my team, unless you have a really compelling story or reason that I should be rooting for you, I have no interest in seeing, seeing Desmond Ritter be successful in Atlanta in the NFL. That does nothing for me. No one's going to be like, hey, you know what? Desmond Ritter's good. And speaking of which, UCF must be good. Like, that's not how that's going to work. So I'm of the mind, if they're on my team, great. That's a challenge you talked about earlier. If there's a cow on your team, it's always awkward. If they're on your team, great. I mean, if Desmond Ritter gets traded to the Giants, I don't know what you're going to do. But I mean, I'm also not going to, to your point, seek out ways to go find Atlanta Falcons games and see how Desmond Ritter's doing.
Yeah, if he went to the Giants and he took the Giants to the Super Bowl and was a great player, I would love him. He'd be my favorite player. But I'm not going to be like, I liked him when he was at Cincinnati or this. No, I hated him when he was at Cincinnati. He was playing against my team, and now he's on my team, then I'm going to like him. If he does well. If he goes to my team and he stinks, then that's even worse. A guy from a team that you hate that goes to your team and then he sucks for your team, that's like the worst possible solution, because he was good against you and then he's on your team and he's no good. That's a double whammy.
All right, here's the next one, and I'll tell you I'll give you the statement. You tell me if you object or not, and then I'll tell you the story, Mike. There's absolutely nothing wrong with existing players transferring to another team so they can get more NIL money. Do you object to that?
It's always about the money. Do I object to it?
There's nothing wrong with it, Mike. It's free market economy. Nothing wrong with it.
Those are the rules nowadays. You can go wherever the money takes you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
wrong with it, Mike. Free market economy.
Well, I mean, if I put myself in those shoes and somebody's offering me $1 million here and I'm not making any money where I'm at, guess what I'm choosing? So I can't be a hypocrite and say that there's something wrong with it. What story?
Here's the story. All right, Jordan Addison is a wide receiver for the Pittsburgh football team, the Panthers. I believe he was the Biletnikoff Award winner last year, Mike, an accomplished wide receiver. Obviously announced he was coming back to Pitt. His quarterback, Kenny Pickett, just got picked in the first round, so he'll be breaking in a new quarterback, but he's established as one of the best players in all of college football. Rumors started to fly that he was going to be entering the transfer portal. He is close friends with Caleb Williams, who is now the quarterback at USC, and Lincoln Riley there, who is now the coach at USC. Then other rumors started circulating, and I'll try to quote who this is from. Hold on, let me find that on Twitter for a second. This is probably somebody called Carlo Veltri. I have no idea what it is. That USC allegedly is rumored to be offering Addison over $3 million plus a house from boosters via an NIL sort of funding arm. And so he essentially will potentially has an offer on the table to leave a situation where he's a star player, he's an award-winning player, but USC is offering him more money to potentially go play there. Mike, nothing wrong with that. Nothing to see here.
I mean, I don't like where we're heading with this. Like the way college football, college sports itself is going. This is why the reason we're doing this now is because they couldn't get these things figured out in the last few years, and now all of a sudden the gates have just opened, and now these kids are free to make $3 million for a kid in college. One player, a wide receiver, not even a quarterback. Seems outrageous. But I can't blame the kid. I mean, if somebody's going to give me $3 million, I'm taking it. What happens if he gets hurt in his senior year? Has an injury like Kalia Davis just had and goes from being a guaranteed first-round pick to maybe not being drafted at all? What happens if he has a Mackenzie Milton injury? And is in danger of losing his leg. So I can't fault the kids for taking the money right now. So I guess I don't object to it. I forget what the question is.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with Jordan Addison sitting in Pittsburgh, and somehow he's not in the portal, but somehow he knows if he enters, he may get a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with him going, you know what? I know I'm good here. I've got an award, and I've been true to my teammates. Hail to the Panthers, whatever they're saying is, but I'm going to go to USC. I got $3 million. Nothing wrong with that.
No, there's something wrong with it. It's the way college sports is going now, and it sucks because we're not going to be one of those schools that can afford to pay these guys. Now, if we were able to be one of these top spending schools, like Miami is getting into being now, and USC and Alabama, then I would love it. I would say screw everybody else. Whatever benefits my team, I'm all for. But the problem we have is we're not in a situation where we can pay the best players, and it's going to end up hurting us in the long run. And college sports now is just basically professional sports, which is why, going back to the other question, when they decide to leave my school, I don't have to care for them anymore. So they're just professional players to me. Like it or not, that's just the way things are right now until somebody can come up with some rules that are going to stop this from happening.
Yeah, I'm going to give the most cop-out answer of all time. I don't like it, but I also understand why it has to be, right? You said it perfectly. Justin Ross is a wide receiver from Clemson. He would have been a high draft pick. He decided to come back to Clemson, got injured. I think he ended up signing an undrafted free agent deal, right? And that kind of stuff happens all the time. And, in college, that kid can probably command whatever that money would pay him. I think the problem that you have with it, though, is then, to your point, it becomes Major League Baseball back in the early 2000s, where if you have the most money, you're going to have the best team. And there's no revenue sharing model in college football. There's no salary cap. There's none of that stuff. There's no regulations in place that meter what can happen. So it very much will become schools like a Miami and who has John Ruiz, who's paying basketball players $800,000 to endorse his brand of something called Life Wallet, which I've never once seen a commercial for in my entire life. But apparently they're getting a lot of good marketing because everybody is sponsoring them. So something about it feels wrong, but it's also, to your point, the mechanisms in place make it such that that's the way it is, and there's some explanations and reasons why it could be the right thing to do. So it feels like shady, but it also is like, man, I also understand why there's a component of it. It feels like there's got to be a way to meet more in the middle. I don't think this is what anybody had in mind when they thought it was name, image, and likeness. I don't think this is what the intentions were, but of course the NCAA and their infinite wisdom and their inability to think anything through. Now we're kind of stuck where we are, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Because to your point, if a receiver's getting over $3 million, the money's going to run dry eventually, Mike, but it's going to be a while until that sort of settles down and this becomes, a really bad business investment.
Yeah, this is the NCAA's fault for not agreeing on some rules and paying all the players up front to begin with. And now they opened it up where they don't have to pay anybody. They're keeping all the money to themselves, and now just having boosters come in and pay these guys, which was, let's be honest, was happening anyway. Now it's more up front. Were these kids getting this much money and we didn't know about it back then? I don't know. That seems like way too much. I guess it's possible. Reggie Bush was probably getting that money back then, right? His mom was getting free rides, and they were getting cars and jobs, and probably millions of dollars back then too. We just didn't hear about it as much. And now in Miami, you mentioned Miami, they're paying players so much money that other players now are getting jealous, right? They have a basketball player that's transferring out because he's not making as much money as the football guy.
Well, no, important update. He decided to stay because him and Ruiz worked out a deal. They're now comfortable with their deal, so he decided to stay.
This Ruiz guy has a lot of money, huh?
He apparently does, yes. Yeah.
Man, too bad Elon Musk is not a diehard UCF fan, right? Because if he was, we'd be set, and we'd all be happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, to your point, like if we had these riches at our disposal and we were spending it to buy players, I'd be like, yeah, what are you gonna do? It's the system, man. You want to do that, get more money, right? But then you're the school who's like, oh man, we're losing our players, and then obviously it feels a little bit shady. But I mean, obviously the kids every day are getting injured and they're ruining their professional careers, but yet the school made a ton of money, the NCAA made a ton of money, the conference made a ton of money. And there's nothing left over for the kid, and you sort of feel for those scenarios. I think the other thing that complicates this is the one-time transfer rule, right? Because these two things hit at pretty much the exact same time. You can get NIL money, and you can just transfer one time, right? So you almost basically have one free agent contract in front of you. And so that's the other element, that there was a perfect storm of these two things at the same time happening. And I don't know how you put the toothpaste back in the tube without some regulations and some legislature. And the NCAA feels like absolutely scared to go anywhere near a lawmaker, because if that happens and the lawmaker says, hey, open up the rest of your books, I think the NCAA is absolutely just scared out of their mind to figure out what else they're doing that's probably unethical, that could get them either other legislation or other things that could jam up their business model.
Yeah. It's because the NCAA doesn't want to lose any money for themselves. The reason they didn't pay student athletes before is because once they're employees, then they got to pay for the insurance and all the stuff on these kids. And that played a big factor on it. Now that they're not responsible for actually doing any of the paying and they get to keep all the money, now they lose all the power that goes along with it, I guess, because now these kids are getting paid millions of dollars from basically anybody that wants to just pay them. Yeah. It's the wild, wild west right now. I don't know when it's going to change or if it'll ever change now that this is in effect. It's a completely different sport. And it's the reason why we don't have to root for these kids once they're gone.
I guess that is the reason, Mike. So that's I object. I don't know if you objected to a lot today. I need to get you a gavel, maybe some sound effects. I need a much heartier I object going forward. I need Johnny Depp's lawyer, sort of I object. Or maybe hearsay. I heard Johnny Depp learned what hearsay was recently. Maybe that could work out.
We got to learn a bunch of new lawyer terms now that we have our guy here, Mike Hoffman,
mm-hmm.
right? Maybe we need to get him on here one day and have him explain to us some new terms, and we can all learn a little bit from this guy. So
we need
stay
a lot.
tuned to future episodes.
We need a lot of help there, Mike. But let's take a break right here. We come back, we'll introduce you to our guest this week. Probably a name that you may not know right off the top of your head, but really good kid, and a fun story or two is told. So don't go anywhere. Sons of UCF, we are right back.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mahajer, and in my spare time when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on!
All right, Mike, our special guest this week, Ryan Anders, a 4-year player, a walk-on to the UCF basketball team, stayed 4 years, got put on scholarship late in his UCF journey, and it was fun to catch up with Ryan. Maybe not a household name, Mike, but he told some good stories, man. I'm excited to bring this conversation to everybody.
Yeah, that's right. I had a good time talking to him. And talk about guys that want to be at UCF, want to be here. He handpicked us himself, came here without a scholarship, earned his way onto the team, and was here for 4 years. Got a scholarship here this past year. Real good kid. Sounds like he's got a very bright future ahead of him. Wish him the best of luck going to Chicago, and hopefully we keep in touch with him as the years go by.
Oh, let's check in with Ryan Anders right now. All right, let's bring in Ryan now. Ryan, first off, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on the show tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. Let's get into your story. You've got a really interesting story. Obviously, you are somebody who was around the basketball program for 4 years. You saw a lot of different things, ups and downs, and everything in between. But let's just start off at the very beginning. You're out of Tampa, correct?
Yep. Came from Wharton High School in Tampa.
So how did you end up at UCF, and then how did you end up on the basketball team? I know initially you were a walk-on, right?
Yeah, so I actually, when I was really looking at schools at that time in high school, I really wanted to, after college work in the NBA after college in like a front office role. And so when I was really looking at colleges, I was looking at teams who had coaches that had connections at the NBA level. And, Dawkins was obviously there. And it was down to UCF, Virginia, and Georgetown with Tony Bennett and Patrick Ewing also doing that. And, UCF just kind of being close to home, especially Tampa, it's not too far. You can kind of drive home if you need to, but it's also far enough away where you feel like you're gone from that environment. And also just Virginia and Georgetown was not cheap. We'll just say that.
That's fair.
So, yeah. And then I actually played in high school with Darren, so I had connections. Kind of through the coaches, kind of easy way in. And I actually started off as a manager, came in, and that's what I was doing my first week here. And I want to say it was maybe the second practice of like the first week of school. The managers and some of the coaches just kind of played pickup, and we were doing that. And one of our assistant coaches, Kevin Norris, was playing with us, and I just played like the best that I've ever played in my life. And the next day, our director of ops, Jimmy Drew, called me in, and they said they had an extra walk-on spot, and if I wanted it, it was mine. So I took it, and here we are now.
Yeah, let's talk through that walk-on part, right? Because I think we've all seen like the movie Rudy, right? And we all assume that like you're going to go in and they're going to just kick the snot out of you for like 2 weeks, and whoever's limbs are still attached get on the team. So your experience was way different than that in terms of quote unquote being a walk-on.
Yeah, way different. Yeah, it just kind of happened like through the pickup game. Just kind of did really good. They knew me through Darren, my coach. Wrote a really good recommendation for me. I'm actually in the honors college at UCF. A big part of being a walk-on is kind of fulfilling your role on the academic side too. So they knew that I'd be able to do that, and so it just kind of all worked out to where I was able to get that opportunity and just kind of take it. And it's been a really great 4 years for me. So.
Well,
how thankful for that.
How good were you in that pickup game? What was your stat line? It sounds like that game was legendary. What was your stat line?
Well, I think the funniest part is when we do the pickup game, and it's 20-minute halves. And I actually had an English class, so I can only play the first half. But I probably dropped like 20 points in the first half, probably like 5 or 6 threes. It was kind of crazy. I'm also like 6'5", 6'6" too, so the height didn't hurt either in kind of the prospects. So, and then we actually played I think that Saturday too, and probably dropped like 40 in that game. So it just all kind of worked out. And I mean, if you ask, Coach Norris, he'll tell you I haven't played that good since. So it's kind of worked out.
So after walking on there, did they actually put you on scholarship at any point?
They did this year. They just kind of had some things opened up. It was me and Levy were the two walk-ons this year, and kind of towards the end of the year, they had the scholarships available. So, they were able to make that happen for us. Kind of like the honorary put us on an honorary scholarship kind of towards the end. So, super grateful for them for that, and just giving us the opportunity to, kind of just be a part of that.
That had to be an awesome feeling when you tell your parents you're on scholarship. So you actually ended up saving a bunch of money this past season, then, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it wasn't too bad because I'm on an academic scholarship when I came here. So the money wasn't like too much, but you get a little extra in the pocket. Definitely does not hurt. I won't complain about it. So, I mean, hey, you'll take money any day, right? So
yeah,
it's been good.
So you mentioned you want to get into the NBA. Are you talking about coaching? Are you thinking about more of a front office thing, into the analytics and all that?
Well, so that was actually when, like in high school and my first couple years in college, that was really what I wanted to do. And then just kind of like going through it, just kind of realized that maybe that wasn't really for me. It wasn't really what I wanted to do and kind of stay on that route. So I switched in the middle of my junior year, kind of on a different path. I used some of my connections that I had through my mom, and got an internship in Chicago last summer at this boutique investment bank named Ziegler. Did really well. They liked me. I liked them. I'm actually going back up there full time after I graduate. And I graduate next week, and I'll go up there in June or July. And so it's kind of worked out. It was a late change, but just having to know people just kind of helped out.
You ready for the cold weather up there in the winter?
I'm not. No. No, I'm definitely a Florida boy at heart. I think I moved to Tampa when I was 8, and so I've been in Florida weather for the last 14 years. So we were actually, me and my mom were up there about 2 weeks ago, looking at apartments, and it was 40 degrees in April. Oof. It's like, yeah, it's not going to be fun when it's single digits in January. So I have to get a whole new wardrobe. That's just
Well, I mean, first off, kudos to you. I mean, not a lot of kids get out of college and have a full-time job lined up, so that's awesome that worked out for you. But let's go way back to the beginning again. So after the legend of the pickup game subsides, you find yourself on the 2018-2019 UCF team, which is probably, if you're going to be in any team in UCF history, that's probably the one you're going to want to be on in some respects. Right?
For sure.
Obviously, that team goes all the way through to the NCAA tournament, loses on literally like 6 inches of a layup by Aubrey Dawkins. We actually talked to Aubrey probably about like 2 months ago, and he told us he still has nightmares about that game. What was that game like from your perspective? Obviously, so much talent on that team. You're a wide-eyed freshman, kind of walking on, just excited to be a part of it. What was your experience like throughout that entire tournament run?
I mean, just to be in the tournament, first off, like the energy just in that building is amazing. Also, just playing Duke, you get a bunch of Duke fans. We were playing in South Carolina, so they made it an easy drive for them, made a little home court. But I mean, UCF fans, they did their part too. They came and made it loud for us. And then, we also had, I think Virginia and Oklahoma were playing the game after us, and they were all cheering for us because nobody wants to cheer for Duke, right? So they were going for us. So just really the energy in that atmosphere was, something I had never been a part of before. And then just kind of sharing the same court in the sense with guys like Zion, RJ, Cam. It's just insane to see the talent they had at that young age, and for us to go toe to toe with them for literally the entire game up until the last second. It was just amazing. Definitely something I'll never forget. Aubrey says he has nightmares. I also have nightmares. I'm sure his are worse since he was actually on the floor for that. But I mean, it's still painful to this day to just kind of think like what would have happened if it did roll in and not roll out.
Yeah.
and moved on. I think we thought that we had the talent to go far in that tournament, and for them, that is just heartbreaking. You see videos of guys in the locker room after, just everybody's in tears. It's a really sad way to go out, but definitely a memory you remember forever.
I mean, one of the things Aubrey told us was that for him, it was just another game, right? It was just another game. He knew it was important. He knew it was Duke. But obviously, you guys knew the history between Coach Dawkins and Duke. You knew all that stuff going into it. I'm sure Aubrey was probably a little humble in that respect. But the rest of the team, you all had to know this one was a special one, right? Obviously, to your point, it was Duke, a blue blood program with all these big names. But was the tie-in with Coach Dawkins, did that make it even special? Was that something where you guys as a team kind of said, hey, let's try to get this one for Coach?
I think, just going into it, he was just so, kind of discreet and low-key about it to where, just trying to make it a game where, it's not, you're not looking at the name on the chest of the other guys. It's just another game, kind of what Aubrey was saying. But in a sense, you definitely, still feel that you're playing against Duke, a team that's been talked about the most the entire year. I feel like it's hard to just kind of slip the mind, and then you see the stuff they're talking about, the Coach K versus Coach Dawkins, Zion versus Taco. As much as you try to not feed into that stuff, you still see it, so it's still kind of in the back of your mind. But I think we just play for Coach Dawkins regardless of the game. Maybe it was a little special for them being against Coach K, being against Duke, but I think that they're going to go and play their hardest regardless of who it is.
Coach Dawkins, obviously, in the media, it seems very relaxed. He's a very calm guy. Even during a game, you don't see him get too worked up. How is he in practice? Does he ever lose his cool on you guys?
He definitely does. But I would say it's still the same. You really, if he bursts out, you did something wrong, because that same demeanor that he portrays to the media is the same. He's the same all the time. He's not fake with that at all. But he's definitely had his times where, we might push him a little too far and it kind of gets bad. He might kick us out of – we've been kicked out of practice, I think, twice during my 4 years, one with that tournament team. So, it doesn't really matter to the team. If you push him to the brink, he'll get mad and he'll let you know it. But overall, he definitely is just kind of very relaxed, just kind of takes everything in stride. But to your point, he does kind of behind closed doors. Maybe sometimes he'll get mad, and he won't try to show it to the media. He'll try to just kind of put a little facade. But I'd say overall, he's definitely definitely the most relaxed coach I've ever played for.
So when he kicks you guys out of practice, what does that mean? Everybody goes home for the day, or you're not allowed back on the court, or is it a penalty? Are you guys happy that you get the rest of the day off?
Let me try to go through it. It happened my freshman year. It was on New Year's Day, and we were playing Temple on the 2nd. So it was the day before the game. And I think a couple things happened, but what really did it was I think Taco took a Hakeem shoulder fake fadeaway shot. And that just made him lose it. And that's when he's like, all right, go home. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a happy New Year. And we all just kind of walked to the locker room, or, we stay on the court for a minute, are we actually leaving? Because they left before any of us did. And so then everybody just kind of walks back to the locker room. And then our captains at that point, I think, were Aubrey, BJ, and Taco. And they went up to the coach's offices and talked to him. And they came back down. We finished practice after that. But then actually my sophomore year, same thing happened. I forget what caused it. Just fooling around again probably. But I think that day we actually had to come back at night. That one wasn't as fun because you go home and then you have to come back. It's a whole process. But I think at first you're like, practice is over early. It's kind of nice, especially just kind of being a walk-on. You're not involved in the practice as much as the other guys. So, practice being over early is a good thing for us. But you know in the back of your head too that's not going to be the end of it. So it was tough both times, but we learned from it and we moved on. So I think ultimately it did help us. So
Especially that New Year's Day one. You get to go home and watch football the rest of the day, right?
Exactly. You got some bowl games to watch, man.
Well, if it helps, you guys actually beat Temple that year, 78-73. So if it helps, I don't know.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it did help. And then we lost at Temple the last game of the year that year. So
you did, yeah. I didn't want to bring that up.
Yeah, that was
well.
kind of messed us up.
If 2018 was a rocket to the moon season, 2019 kind of came crashing down to earth. You guys went 16-14 as a team. Obviously, lost a ton of people. B.J. Taylor, Aubrey left, Taco left, Chance McSpadden was gone, Dayon Griffin, Terrell Allen transfers out. You brought in a bunch of new guys. What's that like for you as a player, right? So, those guys leave. In comes Matt Milan, Avery Diggs, Dazon Ingram, Brendan Mahan. Do you guys have to wear like "Hi, my name is" stickers? What is that like for you as like a returning player on the team with the constant like sort of move in, move out of the transfers these days?
They all kind of like started trickling in. So, it is just kind of weird at first. You have to go up and introduce yourself to all the new guys. I want to say, like you said, the majority of the team is gone. So it's probably a new guy like every other day or something. But, it was just kind of weird just seeing the locker room. We have our names on all the lockers and all the names changed. And so it was kind of weird just having to go through like a whole new process of kind of team building and chemistry and just trying to build that up. It was interesting. Obviously, like kind of you said, it wasn't the same as the first year. Obviously, didn't do as well, which kind of sucks. But I also wasn't there to see those guys from my freshman year kind of develop that chemistry between each other. So it was kind of interesting to see how we kind of went through the whole process. It was a tough year. I think we kind of finished strong towards the end there, but then COVID happened. We were set to play USF in the conference tournament. It didn't happen. It was kind of sad to see that season end because I think we were building towards something. We possibly could have made a run in that tournament. We were kind of connecting at the right time, but I think it took so long because we did have all those new pieces. And it was just kind of something you had to adapt to over the season because, at that time, a lot of the teams were kind of the same. So you're kind of trying to fight through that. So that was kind of my experience with that.
So how does this work for you? I'm going to make an assumption here, and I hope this isn't an insulting assumption. But obviously, you're a holdover player, right? But to your point, you're a walk-on. So you've got all these guys coming in. You kind of know what coach wants. You understand like how to establish culture, and you're trying to integrate these new guys onto the team and sort of get them to where that the program and coach wants to be. How do you do that? How did you go about like trying to bring all these new players in, knowing what Coach Dawkins wants, knowing what the program wants, but again, maybe them looking at you like, hey, Ryan's a walk-on, so maybe they don't take you as seriously. I guess I don't know how to ask that question, but was it awkward for you to try to integrate some of these guys into the culture?
Well, I think to the first point in like getting what Coach Dawkins wants, they recruit these guys, and I think like they kind of see what they want in them. They're not trying to recruit bad people or guys they don't think will add value to the team. So I think it's easier in that aspect and that they're vetting the guys before, we even see them. So there is kind of to that point that they already have kind of the traits that they want. And then just kind of from the walk-on perspective, it is a little weird. Just kind of, you do kind of see yourself like with less power and less influence and trying to like promote like kind of what the culture is. But it definitely is possible. Letty Renault, my other walk-on, he's voted captain our sophomore year. So they do have that respect for us. Kind of you see it in that. But I would say I kind of took a step back just personally because I felt like, you kind of see that less power. So, to your point, yeah, it is weird and how you kind of go through that. I think that's kind of why we struggled a little bit was just kind of trying to find a way to do that. And that's why you see a lot of teams, the teams with the most chemistry building from year to year. That's why, you see like North Carolina is probably going to be projected number one because they have the most guys returning. So, that team chemistry is a thing. It is something that's built It's hard to build it over one season. So, yeah, I don't know.
So COVID brings an end to that season, but the next season it has a big play in it too. I mean, there's stoppages during the season all the time. How hard was it to adjust to, playing one day and then maybe the game getting canceled? Maybe not even your fault. Maybe the other team. How hard was that to adjust to?
It was really weird because the first 2 years you kind of have this internal clock kind of built up where you're going to play, and then what the practice schedule is going to be after that. And then COVID just kind of put a whole new spin on that. I mean, to your point, I think our first game of the year was supposed to be Oklahoma, and that got canceled. And that's just kind of like, and that's like a big team too. That's like a tournament resume type of team. And to have that kind of just scrubbed from the schedule is kind of just like, well, I mean, what do we do now? Like, and we only played 3 non-conference games. And we're used to playing like 12. So you don't kind of have that chemistry going into it. I mean, we had new guys, kind of the same thing going into that year. So it's just and then like the pauses, like we paused in September when we were like first getting back, which kind of hurts, trying to implement the new guys and getting back to shape and all that. And then we had another pause in the middle of December, which a couple games got scrubbed from our schedule, and then they had to make up Memphis at Memphis and play that game back to back. And it hurt. It hurt. I think it hurt us probably more than some other teams. So it was just, it was a way of, I think everybody, you have to adapt, and that's just kind of what the whole world had to do, and that's kind of what we had to do, like the same thing. Just kind of learn how to go from day to day with that process, because it's not going to be the same as it was before.
Were there different protocols and stuff you had to go through during practice? Did you have to separate during meetings? You couldn't be close to each other, anything like that?
I would say during like off the court meetings, like with your position coaches, they tried to do it through Zoom. Whenever we did film, we have this nice film room in the locker room, but now we had to do it on the court, kind of separated from everybody. I would say kind of as the year went on, the restrictions kind of loosened up a little bit, just kind of because, I mean, you're practicing with these guys. Like, if they have it, I mean, it's pretty hard to avoid it at that point. But, you definitely try, like, as much as you can. Like, you wear masks when you're not playing. We're testing almost – at one point before the season, we were testing every single day. During the season, we were testing, like, 2 days before games and after games. So, I mean, the protocols were there. That also was just a weird process. You have to show up before practice, get things stuck up your nose, and then, go on the court for 2-3 hours. It wasn't fun, but, it was necessary in what we had to do. That's what we had to do at the time. So, it was weird, but, I mean, like I said, you just kind of have to adapt to it and kind of take it all in stride.
Well, obviously a weird season overall, and 11-12 you guys finish up. But there was some excitement. There were some exciting players. There's some exciting times. And then as this year's about to kick off, we get word that a bunch of the guys who probably could have opted to leave UCF are going to come back for their super senior year. Plus, you got some young guys like an Isaiah Adams and Darius Johnson was coming in. So I think the fan base in general, we felt like, hey, this is going to be a fantastic season. We got a lot of scoring coming back. We got a lot of depth. We got a lot of experience coming back. We got some young talent. As somebody on the team, watching these guys play every day, knowing what you had, what were your expectations coming into this last season, your senior year?
I mean, I felt the exact same as you guys. Kind of with those expectations. I mean, we had, like, they put the stat out there, like 98% of the minutes returning, or 98% of the scoring and 97% of the minutes, I think is what it was. And then to your point, we're adding a guy like Darius, a really good freshman. So, I mean, I was super stoked. I wasn't there in the summer. I was doing my internship up in Chicago, so I wasn't there during, like, the initial summer workouts. But what I heard, they were doing good. It was exciting times, like you said. So definitely, like, the expectations were there going into the season for sure.
Is that something you guys all talked about? Is that something you as a team, you sort of figured out what your goals were and, figured out how to get aligned? How does a team, I guess, come together like that when you recognize you have a good opportunity like you guys did?
I think, you do recognize that the expectations are there, but also you think that you're going to perform up to those expectations. I mean, I think there was, we talked every day about, I think we can go up with some of the best teams in the country, just from a talent wise. And so I think you go about it like you try to like stay away from it. That's what they say, not feed into the noise, but the noise is there. You feed into it like a little bit, especially like amongst ourselves. I mean, I think we thought we could do great things. And so going into the season, I think we thought that. And then there were games this year that, we really performed up to that level, Michigan beating them.
Yeah.
That's a Sweet 16 team. Miami beating them. That's an Elite 8 team. I want to say Auburn was about like a 3-4 point game with 10 minutes left at Auburn. And then that game just kind of got out of control. Same thing with some other games. Memphis, at Memphis, we beat them at home. And then at Memphis, kind of the same thing. It was about like a 3-4 point game with 10 minutes left. And it just kind of slipped out of our reach and things just kind of spiraled from there. So I definitely think the talent was there. It was just, I think it just kind of slipped at times where things just didn't go our way, and it's kind of tough to battle back from those at sometimes.
Well, who would you say was the leaders on that team this season? It was kind of hard. Like I couldn't determine who I wanted the ball, who I wanted to have the ball to take the last shot. But not just that, but in the locker room, who was the guy that was really taking charge in it?
Well, to your first point about on the court, I think there was just kind of this general feel that it could really be anybody's night. But also, I think that bred inconsistency at times, and that's kind of what you saw out there is we kind of really lived and died by our shooting. We had, Darren, Darius Perry, and then Brandon were, I would say, three of the best shooters in the country. And when they were on, they were on. Like, they were hard to stop. But there were also times where they weren't on. And those were the games where there wasn't really anything to fall back on. So on the court, I think the inconsistencies would kind of hurt us at that level. And then in the locker room, I think this is really one of the closest teams I've ever been on. I think it was really more everybody kind of trying to pitch in kind of together. I would say Levy was definitely up there. He's been here 4 years. He kind of was on the tournament team. He knew he would talk to people about stuff. Darius Perry was at Louisville. He's been through the ringer and stuff like that. But, I think it was really just – I wouldn't say there were really ever any big problems personally in between us, but on the court, I really think we kind of knew what we needed to solve, just kind of as a collective group, and just trying to fight that all together as a team. I wouldn't say it wasn't like really just one guy trying to like call things out. Whereas my freshman year, it was really, BJ, Aubrey, or Taco. Like, if there was a problem, they were going to voice it. They were going to let you know. And it was really just kind of that. They were kind of at the top, and then everybody else kind of faltered to them a little bit. This year, I don't think there was really that kind of leadership structure in there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So those guys were seniors that year when you were a freshman. You think it's maybe because these other guys, they transferred in, maybe they haven't been here for 4 years, they've been here maybe 1 or 2, and you think that has anything to do with it? Maybe they didn't have the seniority as maybe a guy like BJ or Taco did?
Yeah, I also think that, BJ and Taco had guys to learn from too. They had Matt Williams, they had Nick Banyard, guys like that, they weren't just leaders overnight. They kind of, like, to your point, they were seniors. They developed into that. And they were, in the program, they really knew what Dawkins wanted. The guys who transferred, I think, you can kind of say that to where they didn't have the same kind of level of leadership. But, Darius was playing for, 5 years. So he really knew kind of what it took. So I would say they weren't as outspoken as like BJ and Taco were, as to where I think they would speak up more. And yeah, I don't think we spoke up as much this year. I think it was everybody kind of trying to like kind of figure it out as a team and maybe trying to figure out their own problems. But my freshman year was, I think, more like kind of collective and to where, BJ and Taco and Aubrey, even Terrell at some points, I really think he developed as a leader, as our point guard going into the end of that year too. So yeah, I do think it hurt a little bit, but at the same time, like they played for a long time too. They knew what it took. So
there were a couple of games throughout the year. So a tough loss at home, 66-62 to Temple. That was a backbreaker. It's a team we probably should have beat that night, a team we were better than.
Yeah.
But then 10 days later, we go to your hometown, to Tampa. We play the Cows, and they just wiped the floor with a 75-51. I mean, they out-rebound. I mean, I think they're still out-rebounding us right now as you and I are talking. Take us in the locker room after the game. What was the mood like? Are people pissed off? Are people throwing stuff? I mean, take us in the locker room after the game, after losing such a tough game against a rival like that.
I mean, people are just pissed off. I think it's you go in, you expect to win that game for sure, especially against your rival on their home court. Like you want to put out a show. And it just didn't happen. I mean, credit to USF to where, they worked really hard to beat us like that. But I think it was just disappointing knowing that, that really shouldn't have happened. To your point, they out-rebound, like they doubled us up on rebounds. I mean, that was just a toughness thing. Coach Dawkins brought that up for sure. And, he made sure to bring it up, for days after the game too. Didn't let us forget. And then I think we shot maybe 2 for 20 from 3. I think at one point it was like 1 for 18. But it was just bad all around. They couldn't really get anything going. Just kind of the momentum of the game just kind of went in their favor, and it just kind of kept going. We never really could catch a break from it, and it was just that was definitely one of the most disappointing losses of any game that I've been here. It was bad, but it was nice to get them back on our home court, kind of in the same way. I think we won by around 20.
Yeah.
And then getting them back in the conference tournament too for the grudge match was also nice. So a little redemption for that game, but definitely a game that we know we should have won.
Yeah, can you brought out something I'm curious about. Can you describe Coach Dawkins' offensive philosophy, sort of the offense you were running? Because to your point, obviously you had some really good shooters from the outside.
Yep.
I think Darius Perry was developing into a good point guard, but then you saw Darius Johnson really take the ball, and Darius Perry played off the ball for a while. Mahan, obviously a great shooter. He seems like he wants a shot off one leg with 4 guys draped all over him, like in some sort of weird fashion. Like that seems to be his rhythm. Where Darren Green wants to come off screens. What was the offensive setup like? What were you guys trying to run? What was your basic sets, and what were you trying to get kind of on your most normal offensive plays?
So especially this year, it was very much riding the hot hand of whoever was going. To your point, if Darren was going, we're going to try to get him off a screen, get him in some action, get him the ball, get him a shot. I think when Brandon gets it going, you're talking about his one-leg fadeaways. When he gets it going, those go in every single
Exactly,
time.
Yeah.
There's just no stopping him when he gets going. So when he's hot, you get him the ball. The same thing with Darius Perry, Darius Johnson. CJ's got the mismatch, and he's got to go, and you get him the ball. Same thing with Mbake, same thing with Jamil. I think it was really just trying to get whoever was going the ball. But then that also caused some problems. I think counter to the USF game, the one at USF, where nobody has it going, and it's just kind of like, all right, so like, what do we do? We kind of had like a little bit like a 4-out, 1-in motion, high pick and roll, stuff like that. But we definitely had sets too that were designed to get specific guys the ball, and if you get those guys the ball and they're cold that night, then nothing's really going to happen. So I think sometimes when they're hot, like it really worked. You see it in some of those games, but when they're cold and it's not working, then you see it in that too. So it really, I think, exponentially helped them, and then also exponentially didn't help them at the same time. So
you get the chance to get in on a few games here and there. You got in against Tulane. Obviously, not a pretty game to remember. We got beat pretty bad, but you go 2 for 2. You hit a 3-pointer. What's the feeling like personally for you when you get into a game and you get to hit some shots?
It's really nice. So my freshman year, actually, my first bucket was against Memphis, at Memphis. In the regular season, we were down 25, and I hit it. And those were my first points, but we were down 25. So you want to celebrate, but you kind of can't at the same time. There's just kind of that little give and take. And it was the same exact thing at Tulane. Having 5 points, that's an incredible moment, just for me personally. But, as a team, we're down 20. So it's kind of hard to celebrate in the moment. But, just now kind of looking back on it, you just kind of like take pride in it at that point. But definitely in the moment, you're happy about it, but you just kind of can't show it. So it's a little sad. So,
are you excited when you get it? You're down 20. It's the last 2 minutes of the game, and Johnny looks over and he says, "All right, get in there." Or is it kind of like,
oh no, yeah, that's me and Lev kind of had like the running joke all year, where we're down 20. Like, there's just no way we want to be put in. And then kind of the same thing when we were playing at USF in Tampa. We were down 20. I had family at the game because I'm from Tampa, and my family was kind of like saying, "Oh, like let's put Ryan in," and then my mom knows. She's like, "Oh, he does not want to go in." So yeah, you don't want to go in down 20 because it's just kind of like a lose-lose. Like you score, like it's kind of happy, but also like the chances of you getting the ball when you're losing like that aren't very high. And then like if they put their walk-ons in, they're just going to try to go at you. So it's just, especially on their home court too, it's just, yeah, there's really just no winning in that scenario. So we try to avoid that as much as possible.
How many times did you get in when we were up by 20?
My freshman year, I got in a lot. Yeah, so I got in 8 games my freshman year. I want to say 2 of them were down 20, both against Memphis. One was the conference tournament. That was bad loss. And then the other was the one I scored, like I said, in the regular season. But I got in those games, didn't score. I think I went like 1 for 8 that year or something like that. So not good efficiency there. But then my sophomore year, our last game of the year before COVID happened, we were playing East Carolina, where we played like really good. And also at that point, we won by 30 that game. And that kind of, gave us momentum going into the tournament. Like I said, we were happy. But, I got in that game, hit a 3. That was one I really got to celebrate because we were winning. So that was definitely a great memory, was, being in the game up and scoring. So there were definitely moments where I got in the game and got the ball and was able to put up shots. But that was the only time I actually went in. So kind of sad there.
Can we talk about Tulsa for a second? I mean, what did you say? What was said in the locker room after the Tulsa game?
Well, there was nothing said until Dawkins walked in. It was just kind of like you're just stunned to lose in that way. It's just hard to have the game pretty much. I don't think we were losing like for a single second. And then for them to that's like a 1 in 100 shot that Jariah Horn hit. I mean, credit to him, but that's just tough to go through right there. But I mean, I think you learn from it in that you kind of have to take the end of those games a little more seriously. I think we were up 5 with 5 seconds left, and then, we ended up losing by 1. So, anything can happen. Even like watching some of the tournament games this year, when teams are up 5 with 5 seconds, I just kind of thought to myself, well, we're in the same position, so it's not over yet. But that game was tough for sure.
Well, you mentioned obviously we come back in the tournament, we take out the Cows in round 1, and then we lose to Memphis, and obviously that game effectively ends your UCF career, and you head back to the locker room after that game. You're in Fort Worth, Texas, of all places, by the way, and you go in the locker room, you take your jersey off for the final time. What goes through your mind? What emotions were you feeling on that day when you recognized that your 4-year journey was coming to an end?
At the time, it was just really sad. I mean, this has been a great 4 years. It's been a huge blessing to be able to be a part of this program and all the ups and downs, just all the memories I've made. You just kind of think in that moment that, it's all coming to an end. And it's really sad in the moment, but then after you think, I'm kind of ready for the next step, to learn from these experiences, use them as a building block. So it's bittersweet in that, it's sad. It was a great 4 years, but, it's also time to move on at a certain point too. So, it's just my time now. So.
Since the season ended, a bunch of guys have entered the transfer portal. Guys that are getting a lot of playing time, so that's not the issue. What do you think it is? Is it just individually they each have a different reason, or is there something going on in that locker room where everybody seems like they want to get out of there?
I think individually it's definitely just kind of like different reasons across the board. It's all just kind of trickled on, just kind of as things went. I wouldn't really say there's like a fundamental issue that you can kind of point to and say, oh, that reason is why all these people are transferring. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's definitely different individual reasons for each guy and why they're moving on. And some it might be a good thing, some it might be a bad thing. Who knows? But that's something you learn from as you go forward. So, but it is a chance to get some new guys in here who can help the team too. So. It definitely goes both ways in that. And I mean, I think we've seen just the transfer portal overall, every team is kind of going through the same thing in some sense. You're lucky if you're not. So I just think we're just kind of, we're not the, what am I trying to say? We're not like the extra in it. It's just, we're kind of part of the norm of it all. So.
The one guy that had me scratching my head this season was Isaiah Adams. You saw the way he played last year. He was a freshman. He looked great. This year, he never really caught a rhythm. I don't know. You see him every day in practice. Did you notice anything different with him this season than last year?
I would say he was in the starting lineup the first couple games, and he earned that spot. Before the season started in practice, I mean, he was playing great. Just kind of as, I would say, kind of like a point forward kind of role where, he was getting the ball. He was being very decisive. He was making plays. He was, setting screens to get like guys like Darren and Brandon open, really playing his role. And then I think as the season kind of went on, he saw his minutes like kind of fluctuate a little bit, and I think he just felt like he had to be like a scorer and like just kind of someone that he really wasn't. And he had his flashes, kind of as the season went on, but he also had games where he tried to force things that weren't really there. Just kind of, I think, bred into like all the inconsistency I said was kind of the main issue that, he was just kind of a victim of that too. So it was sad to see, but I mean, like going into the year, he looked great, and he definitely has that potential. We saw it at points in his freshman year and even at points, during this year too. So, I hope all the best for him at Buffalo, and I think, he can definitely be a big factor in their program for sure.
Was there a name that surprised you, Ryan, from the transfer portal? A name that surprised me was Darren Green Jr. I mean, he announced he was coming back. He was going to be back at UCF, and then, kind of quickly got in the portal and got to Florida State. Was there a name that left that you kind of were surprised when you learned or when you were told that they were leaving?
Well, I think to your point, Darren kind of surprised me. Just from the fact that he had signed with the Mission Control and was doing all the stuff, with the UCF fan base. So yeah, that one did surprise me a little bit, but I think him signing with Mission Control is what led me to believe he would stay. After the year ended and guys were leaving, I kind of thought maybe he would leave, maybe he wouldn't. But for it the way that it kind of happened, kind of surprised me a little bit. But it is what it is. I think he'll do great at FSU. So that's my guy. I've been playing with him since I was a sophomore in high school. So, I've seen him kind of just develop over the years and become the player he is. So, it's good to see him kind of get an opportunity at a bigger school like that, I think it would have been nice if he stayed too. He kind of always talks about breaking Matt Williams' record. But I think he's really going to do great, just kind of wherever he goes. And it was weird, but I wish all the best for him.
Have you had a chance to talk to him since he signed with Florida State?
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times. We've talked since. He's just kind of getting ready to make the move up there. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. He's in there in the gym every single day getting shots up. He didn't become the shooter he was just by accident. He's put the work into doing that. And so I'll go into the gym and I still play pickup with the manager sometimes. You gotta go back to my roots, right? So
you still dropping 40 on the managers in that game, by the way?
No, I mean, to Coach Norris's point, I haven't played like that since my freshman year. So, sometimes you see him in the gym working out because that's just what he does. So, I've talked to him a little bit. I mean, like I said, that's my guy since high school. So, our friendship's always going to be there no matter what.
Outside of Ryan Anders, my favorite player on the team this past year was probably Ty Freeman. Kid looks like an athletic freak. Looks like he can do anything in the basketball court. You saw him every day. How good? I mean, going forward, obviously Darius Johnson, Ty Freeman are going to be a part of the team. You mentioned some transfers that are coming in, but talk to me about Ty Freeman. How good can this kid be? Because he seems like he's got just a ton of athleticism. When he puts it together with some skill, he's going to be a dangerous player.
Yeah. Well, first off, you don't have to lie about me being a favorite player. That's okay. Second of all, definitely to your point, from the first day I saw him, the athleticism just pops the way, he can move and jump like that. He's also one of the most unselfish players that, I've ever been around. He's not about him. We have to tell him to shoot the ball, not, pass the ball. He's always trying to make the extra play and stuff like that. And I think that hurts him a little bit. So, for him, just kind of being more aggressive and taking the looks he gets instead of passing them up is really going to help him. And I think our coaching staff is going to do a good job of kind of trying to develop that, over the spring, over the summer, over the fall, going into next year. But like you said, he has a lot of potential. So, I think he's a really exciting player to watch for UCF fans to see, and hopefully it works out for him.
You're part of a lot of ups and downs over the 4 years. We've seen some really good things. We've had a couple bad moments. We had some weird times with the COVID. What's your favorite memory of being a part of this basketball program for the last 4 years?
For me personally, was I think hitting the three in my sophomore year against East Carolina. Just kind of, all my teammates were, super happy for me, because it was right in the corner. Where our benches, so if you go back and watch it, you can kind of see all my teammates' reactions when it goes into, and I'm also in the frame. So that was kind of cool. And then just after in the locker room too. So it's definitely between that and then, being in the tournament against, VCU, getting that win. And then, even against Duke, that's just a legendary game, even though we lost it. Like we said earlier, that's just a memory you have forever. So my biggest memory would be probably the Duke game, and that's a story I can tell forever. But my favorite memory would be definitely hitting the three against East Carolina my sophomore year.
All right, Ron, you've been really generous with your time, and we appreciate it. But before we let you get out of here, we are going to end with some rapid-fire questions. These could be anything from music, movies, sports, kind of anything in between. So are you prepared for these rapid-fire questions?
I'll do my best. Let's do it.
All right. So this year we saw the announcement of the ability to have NIL deals for college athletes. Obviously, a bunch of guys had some deals on the football team. Some of the guys on the basketball team had some deals. If Ryan Anders could sign an NIL deal, what would you have wanted to sign? What would you have wanted to promote, or what product do you think speaks to who you are as a person?
Personally, I like to promote Hootie Magoose.
Okay, fair enough.
Chicken fingers are amazing.
Yeah.
But then just me personally, I would say there's a place called Legacy Point, and it's a not-for-profit retirement community around UCF that just kind of helps, UCF alumni specifically kind of, if they're kind of transitioning to that point, kind of just get the help they need. And for just older people to kind of be in a community around, similar-minded people. So that's definitely a place that I don't know how much NIL deal work you could do with them, but
Right.
Just promoting them would be, something good.
I think Huey Magoo's is a good call, though.
Yeah, Huey Magoo's is really good.
It's a good call.
It's definitely my favorite place on campus for sure.
All right, over those 4 years in practice, who's the best trash talker on the team?
Darius Perry is up there for sure. When he gets going, he definitely likes to talk for sure. But I also like to talk too, so put myself up there too.
What's something you and him would go back and forth on? Give us a little example.
Well, Darius is definitely a scorer, so he'd always, whenever, and I personally would say I'm definitely not the best defender in the world. So whenever he would see me, he'd always try to score on me. So if I would get a stop on him, I'm definitely saying something. Or if I score on the other end, I'm definitely saying something to him, because he definitely talks the most of anybody on the team. So you always gotta get him when you can. So.
Is there a code of conduct on trash talk? Are there off-limit subjects that you guys just all know, hey, we're not going to talk about that?
I would say you never try to go into anything personal. You really just kind of keep it on the basketball court and what's going on there. You don't really bring up off the court stuff. That's kind of the unwritten rule, I would say. But for the most part, you just know the boundaries not to cross. So there was never really anything you really had to say about that.
All right, take us on a road trip. Did you guys have roommates when you went on the road at hotels?
Yeah. So my freshman year was day on. So that was nice. He's actually from St. Pete, so we kind of have a little similarity there. But he's 4 years older than me, so it's kind of different in that regards too. I never really played against them or the same people. Let's see, my sophomore year, I kind of was with a couple different people. I kind of moved around a little bit. I was with Dre Fuller a lot. That's one of my closest friends on the team for sure. Matt Milan sometimes. Junior year was a little weird because of COVID, but I think I was with Avery the majority of the time my junior year. And then this year I was with Bakke pretty much all the time. So you kind of have the same roommates for the whole time, and you definitely get close to them on the road trips. Me and Bakke became really close, just kind of being roommates on the trips. So my personal experience with that has been good, but I don't know the other guys. Because some people you might not want to be.
I was gonna say that sounds really nice, Ryan. But here's my question: who did you not want to be roommates with? Who did you know was gonna smell? They were gonna clog up the toilet. Who did you not want to be roommates with?
I wouldn't really say there was really anybody in particular.
Somebody snores, going to keep you up all night, something like that.
Well, if you ask some people, I'd be the one because I have a tendency to snore. So if you ask Bakke, I definitely did that. If you went and asked Matt Milan, he would say I'm a snorer and that he wouldn't want to be with me. So wow. I might be the answer to your question.
Wow. Okay. So. the rare answer where you're the answer. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Self-reflection. You got to do it sometimes.
All right. What's your favorite basketball movie?
Basketball movie? Coach Carter. I think that's an easy one. That's a classic, really good. Samuel L. Jackson, great actor. So Coach Carter, you can watch that anytime it comes up, I would say.
You might be a little too young, but the correct answer is White Men Can't Jump.
I've actually never seen that.
Oh my God.
and I definitely need to see it.
Yes, you do.
And
yes.
Hang up with us right now and go watch it.
All right, say no more. Yeah, I feel like that would definitely be up there. I just haven't seen it. I do need to see it though.
Oh, you need to watch it tonight.
That's a good one, yeah.
If you have nothing else going on, as soon as we hang up, go watch it and get back to it.
And once the NBA playoffs stop, I'll go and watch.
I was gonna. Are you? So they're on right now. Are you? Who's your NBA team?
Mm-hmm. So I've kind of switched around a little bit. I was a Magic fan, just kind of living in Tampa and then moving to Orlando. You kind of get ingrained with that, but they're such a hard team to root for.
Yes, they are.
Because they're just they're just not that good. And then, like I said, I moved to Chicago after I graduated. So I was trying to kind of adopt the Bulls this year, and they were really fun for the first half of the year, and then they just kind of fell off a cliff towards the end of the year. And then they didn't have the best of first round series in the playoffs. So, I'm just a fan of basketball, so I can really watch whoever, but I definitely have certain teams and kind of players I like watching. I like watching Nikola Jokic and Luka. Watching Giannis just dominate is fun. One team I do not like watching is the Sixers. One, because one of my closest friends is a fan of them, and so seeing them be bad is fun.
Yeah.
But then also, Embiid and Harden, for their credit, they do it, but it just feels like the majority of their games are on the free throw line. So
yeah.
Those games are a little hard to watch, but credit to them, they're both very good. So.
Well, A, they're not going to listen, so you don't have to credit them. But B, you're in luck though, because
exactly.
I'm from actual South Florida, so I'm a Heat fan, and the Heat are breaking away now, 91-77. Tyler Hero's caught fire, and Bam has finally come alive. So there's your NBA update. Who's going to win it all though? Who do you got hosting the trophy at the end?
Ooh, the Warriors have just looked. There's another team I like watching. The Warriors. They've looked crazy this year. In the playoffs, not this year. This year too, but especially in the playoffs, they got all their guys back. Watching Steph and Clay when they get hot, those might be two of the most fun guys to watch.
Well, you Adam Jordan pull out of nowhere, and Andrew Wiggins learned how to shoot. And all of a sudden, wow, where's this team come from?
You got an all-star starter, and Andrew Wiggins as your fifth best guy in the court. I'd say that's a pretty good team right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Warriors are going to host the trophy.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
I think this year has been kind of you just don't really know. There's a number of teams that can do it. So I think the NBA is kind of at its peak. It's been the past couple of years.
All right, with you moving to Chicago, what are you looking forward to the most? Is it the deep dish pizza or the Chicago style hot dog?
Ooh. I'm a pizza guy, so I say the pizza. Yeah, I don't think I had a hot dog when I was up there. I don't really eat hot dogs that much, but I'm definitely a big pizza guy. So I'll eat the pizza up there for sure. But I actually prefer the New York style over the Chicago. But
that's fair.
You always got to try the Chicago style for sure because it's an experience in itself. All
right. Have you been to Wrigley yet since you've been up there?
Not last year, but I've been up to Chicago before and I've been there. I went to Wrigleyville last year, which is all the bars that are around there, and that's a super fun atmosphere. They live and die by the Cubs up there, so which has kind of been sad for them. So, but it's a super nice area. But I definitely need to make it up there to the actual game.
So as an athlete on campus, how much were you able to support some of the other sports programs, either the football team, maybe the softball team, maybe women's basketball? How often were you able to get out and take in some of the other games just like a regular college student would?
Yeah, so I would say my first 2 years I did a lot because I lived on campus my first 2 years. You try to make it obviously football, make as many games, but I was going to baseball, volleyball, women's basketball. Games like that. And then actually when COVID started, after my freshman year, my mom moved up here because her main work is in Orlando. So it just kind of worked out. I was here too. But then once COVID started, I moved in with her. And then just kind of these last 2 years just made sense to kind of stay at home. So it's been a little harder to just kind of go to random events as it was there. You just kind of leave your dorm room, walk 5 minutes, and you're at a game. You just kind of have to plan it out when you're living 20 minutes away from campus.
All right. What's a place that you want to visit that you've never been to before?
Ooh, I would say Italy. I want to go to Italy. I think just the culture there, the food, the kind of nature up there. It's very talked about. It's a high tourist destination, and there's a reason why. So I'd say Italy. I want to travel internationally a lot. I'm actually going to. Me and my mom are going on a graduation trip to Iceland in a couple weeks. So
wow.
I'm really excited about that. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Italy, I just went to the first time a couple month ago, and it was.
Oh wow, how was
it? You
it?
can never make it there. It was awesome. I had a great time. We did Venice and Rome, and I suggest it. Anytime you get a chance to do it, go do it.
Yeah, definitely on the agenda. Yeah, I would say I've traveled a fair bit. My mom and I used to play baseball when I was younger, and baseball was my number one sport. And we used to do this thing where we tried to go to like every major league stadium. We hit 22 out of 30.
Nice.
And then I just stopped. And then I just stopped caring about baseball, so we stopped doing it. I've been a lot of like places in the U.S., but internationally, I want to go to a lot. Italy. We went to Spain as a team my sophomore year. That was a really cool experience. Like I said, I'm going to Iceland, so trying to get those places, checked off the bucket list too.
Well, what's your favorite stadium, real quick?
Actually, Comerica Park in Detroit is super nice. Kind of underrated because it is Detroit, but they have a really nice park. Camden Yards in Baltimore is really nice too. I would say Wrigley and Fenway, you kind of have the history there. Fenway, we were also at a Rays Red Sox game and wearing Rays stuff. So maybe not the smartest thing to do. But Fenway, there's just a bunch of history there. So, but I would say favorite is Comerica in Detroit. Kind of a weird one.
Fun fact. Well, Ryan, look, you've been super generous with your time, man. We really appreciate you for hopping in and sharing so many stories and talking about your time at UCF. Obviously, you were part of a lot of great experiences on the basketball program. And best of luck to you as you embark on your professional career. And hopefully we get a chance to catch up soon and talk some ball with you, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me on anytime.
All right, appreciate it. Charge on.
Charge on.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair's on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, a big thanks to Ryan Anders for spending so much time with us and giving us some insight on the UCF basketball program and his time at UCF. Mike, really enjoyed that conversation. And each week I enjoy Cow of the Week, where you and I will talk about, something, someone, a situation, whatever that kind of made us laugh, that we think is just stupid or idiotic, and we will make fun of them like we do to our neighbors in West Tampa, Mike. So Cow of the Week is back. You get to lead off as always. Why don't you go ahead?
All right, well, I had a special request this week for a cow, and anytime somebody can make my job easier by giving me a cow, I'll take it, even if it's myself. And this week, it is myself. It's me. I'm the cow of the week. And this past week, we had the Race the Night 5K, which, as you know, if you listened to the show last year, I won the Sons of UCF group, right?
Yep.
We had about 30 participants in our group, had the best time in there. This week, what was it, Sunday? Yesterday, I ran my race. Right before I went to go do it, I posted, hey, I'm going to run the race, and I'll let you guys know how I do when I'm done. Came back, proud of my time. Not as good as last year, but not far off, about 30 seconds slower this year, but I felt pretty proud of my time. Posted my pictures up there, and the champ is here. Who's coming after me? And our buddy Sebastian Peralta, Barry Addict, beat me. Beat me straight up. And, good for him. I'm glad he did. But I have to take some credit for him winning this race, because I believe I motivated him to train as hard as he did to be able to beat me. He beat my time from last year, which I'm sure was his goal. And good job out of him.
Yeah.
He's earned himself a prize. Or he's sending him a tumbler or something?
Yeah, no, I'm all in. I want to negotiate this with you on the air. I think he's earned a tumbler. He's already got a Sons of UCF hat as well. So he may be the first recipient of a tumbler and a hat. So this is groundbreaking, information for the Sons of UCF community.
Yeah, great for him. He's worked very hard over this year. I mean, he's probably training every day. He's got my picture hanging up there. He's motivating himself. Mm-hmm. I did take that 10-day hiatus just a month ago. It really slowed me down there a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that was a big difference in this year's time from last year.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised at the time I ran, because I really haven't even been running the last couple of weeks. I haven't run at all. The last couple of times I did run, I was running it at about 27 minutes. and I peeked at the leaderboard before I went out to run. I saw your time, and I said, I just got to beat Adam. That's really the only thing I really wanted to do. So I ran as hard as I could, and was able to do that. But he didn't have his time posted at the time. If I would have seen his name on there, maybe I would have pushed myself a little bit more, but I don't know if I could have even done it better than I did.
Yeah.
My legs today are still sore.
Yeah.
Very sore. So, good job, Sebastian. I'll be the cow this week for claiming the victory before.
He took a victory lap. You were, as you often say, you were strutting like a peacock with your victory.
That's right. But, I still top Suns because, like I said, I beat you, and I did not see Trace's name on the list of participants.
No.
He may have used his excuse, his answer that he uses every year. I choose not to run, like the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
Did not see his name on the list this year. I know last year he did. He participated with Jen and Britt.
Yep.
Did not see his name this year. So at least out of the guys on the show, I'm still number one. Right?
You were top dog there. Yeah, the list was weird this year. The way the whole thing was a little different than last year's. It was hard to find your score and who's in whose group and whatnot. But so we think Sebastian is our Sons of UCF winner, and happy to send him a mug again. A really nice time. Had a chance to meet him briefly at Lazy Moon, although I did not know it was him until after he left. And so plus his wife got in the trash talk too. Mike was kind of saying, hey, no, great, now I got to hear this too. So anytime we get the family involved, I think that is Tumblr worthy. Either way, it was a fun event. We do this every year. It's a great cause, obviously, giving back to UCF and the Alumni Association. I think the West Palm Beach chapter helps put it on. Always cool when you get a chance to connect with the alumni chapters.
And maybe I have to nominate you along with me here because I saw you entered your time.
Yeah.
And according to the official statistics, you only completed 62% of the race.
Yeah.
So
So it said like how much did you run? And so I thought it was like so I put 3.1. I thought they wanted miles. Turns out they wanted kilometers. I'm not really big on this whole conversion thing, so I put 3.1 because I thought they wanted the mile conversion. So I screwed that up. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you still have not finished the race.
It's still ongoing. I'll let you know when I get the other 28% complete. 28%?
38%
complete. See, I'm already in trouble. So we'll get there. Mike, my cow of the week is going to be a long-winded story, and you've got nowhere to go, so just sit here and listen to it. My cow of the week is going to be my daughter's opponent's soccer coach from the weekend, Mike. Let me tell you this story because I feel like I need your opinion on who's right and who's wrong here. Quick backstory, tournament this weekend for my daughter's soccer team. It's a 4-team tournament. One of the teams in the bracket with us is a local team here, kind of a rival to our team. We've played before. We actually beat them for a championship about 2 months ago, right? One of the quirks of the tournament is since you play so many games in a few days, you can recruit what they call guest players. So you can have somebody join your team just for the tournament so that you have enough substitutions and, it's multiple games back to back for health and safety reasons, right? So my daughter is at like an intermediate level of competition, and there's a level above them, kind of a higher level. Those girls were not playing this weekend. So the coach for the opposing team went to that coach and said, give me 5 of your girls so I can have them on my team. So he was like, okay, fine. So the 5 girls agree, and they say, yeah, we'll come to your team, right? Our coach then was like, hey, we'll get some players too. And they're like, oh, sorry, we gave all our players away. So we did not have any guest players. We only have 12 players on the roster in general. You need 11 on the field. Do the math. There's 1 sub. So let's just keep that in the backdrop. So we go on, we play our first game against an opponent, we beat them. We play our second game, we beat them. The third game, we are now going to be playing our rival team. The way soccer works is you win a game, you get points. You get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. So after 2 games, we have 6 points, and the rival team we're going to play, they have 4 points. So ostensibly, we are the top 2 teams in our bracket, and the way it was supposed to work is the top 2 teams play a final game, right? So our coach goes to their coach before the game and says, listen, you guys are number 2, we're number 1, we're already play right now. Why play a second game after this? Let's just play winner take all. Whoever wins this game is the champion. That way the girls can play 1 game, go home, enjoy the rest of their day, winner take all. And the coach says, nope, we want to play both games. If we don't win, we want to come back, we want to play. If we win, we want to come back and we want to play. And coach is like, are you serious? Like we're already right here. Let's just play this 1 game. Coach says, no, we want to play this game. We're no chance. We're coming back. We want to play, right? All right, fine. So we go play the game. Comes into a 1-1 draw, right? So we tie this team. So now if you're scoring at home, we have 7 points. They have 5 points, right? So now we have to come back 3 hours later and play the exact same team again. Now, mind you, they have 17 girls. We have 12. So before the game starts, one of our girls starts getting leg cramps and has to go get treatment on the training table. Not sure if she can play. Another girl was really hot outside. All of a sudden has some heat exhaustion. So we're looking at potentially not even having a full 11. We may have to play 10. So coach goes to the other coach, says, listen, I got some girls who are dying over here. Let's do this. We tied. Let's just do PKs. We'll do one round of PKs, and whoever wins the most, that's the winner. Once again, coach says, nope, my girls want to play. We're going to play. And he says, okay, fine. Well, I may only have 10 or 11. You've got like 17 or 18. And he was like, yeah, what are you going to do? And coach goes, well, why don't you play your original team against our original team? We'll play that way. That way it's kind of equal, it's fair, we're across the board. The coach says, no, I'm not doing that. I've got these girls. We're going to play. So we go out to the field. We actually put 11 on the field. The girl with the cramps was able to move. The girl with heat exhaustion ended up having to sit out for most of the first half. And probably with 2 minutes to go in the game, one of our girls makes a fantastic move around the goalie, scores the goal, Mike. We end up winning 1-0, take the championship home against the team we should have beat, Mike. So I want to nominate that other coach for Cal because I feel like he had opportunities to have done something different there. But other people are like, hey, I would have done the same thing if I was him, Mike. So I need your expert opinion here. Is anything in this Cal of the Week worthy to you?
I don't understand. If you were winning, you had more points. Why doesn't it be over after all you guys needed to do was tie that first game, right?
No, because they throw the points out and once you get to the final round. So basically the round robin, and then they throw the points out. They clear the deck. But it would have been our two teams anyway. So that's what coach was like, it's going to be us anyway. Points be damned. Let's just play this thing right now. Why play 2 games and we just can play one and we'll figure out who wins? And we tied that game. We would have had to go on to PKs, and that's how that would have been decided. But he wanted to play a second game. Now, the little backstory also, we beat them a few months ago for a title. There's a girl on their team who was on our team beginning of the year. She had some conflict issues, some personality issues, didn't like the girls, so she left that team. So there's a little extra juice behind the scenes here, Mike, in 14-year-old soccer, by the way. But I don't know if anything's Cal of the Week worthy there. It just pissed me off.
Well, ball don't lie, right?
Ball don't lie, right.
So you guys did everything the right way. You offered it up, and they didn't take it, and they got what they deserved. You guys won the title. So, I've seen this before in poker games. I've seen this happen. A guy offers, or even like a fantasy football situation. You guys go into the championship game. Hey, you want to split the pot here? And it always turns out the guy that says no always is the guy that ends up losing anyway. So, good job out of you guys, man. You came through. You want me to call this guy a cow? Yeah, he's a cow.
Well, you are an esteemed head softball coach in the local Fort Lauderdale rec area. Faced with a similar scenario, what would you have, knowing that you have the better team on paper with the girls that you have, knowing that in theory you should be able to win? What would you have taken the opportunity to play one time, or would you have said no, we're going to keep playing this thing out because you knew you had a better team?
Yeah, no, I probably would have just taken the one game. Why play 2 when you can have 1? I wouldn't have taken 5 girls from another team just to make my team better. My guy's like, hey, I'm playing with what I got, and that's my team. As you know, my Lamacorn's team is not it's not full of all-stars.
Sure.
Fair. Yeah, we're the underdog most nights. So
where are those rankings posted? Where can I get those updated lines every night? I'd love to get some Lamacorns action.
Yeah. I don't know where you can find one of those.
Okay, I'll search them out.
It's off the board on Saturday's game. But, yeah, man, I think that's kind of messed up. This guy is trying to take advantage of the system, and, it sucks for the players on his team, too, because he's got his typical 12, right? And now his 5 bottom girls are not going to play because he took 5 girls from another team that are better. Mm-hmm. It's not – I could see if you don't have enough girls to play that weekend because of whatever, somebody's sick or they're out of town, and you have to pick up girls. But you picked up 5 extra ones. That doesn't sit well with me. So he got what he deserved. You guys did the right thing.
Awesome. All right. I like having that guy be Cal of the Week. Also, we won, which is fantastic, and it was a fantastic game, fantastic goal, and shout out to all the parents out there, by the way, Mike, and you included in this because you're obviously coaching and you have both your kids playing. The amount of time and effort goes into youth sports, like travel sports, it's unbelievable. Oh, my goodness. We were basically gone all weekend with 4 different games, 2 a day and Saturday, Sunday. Hanging out in the hot, sweaty field, waiting for the next game to start, trying to get orange slices for people. I mean, the amount of things parents go through. Hats off to all you parents out there who do the same thing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is, man. They're long days. And you think about us, we're just sitting there watching these kids play. What about the kids that are playing these games? And this heat, and it's not even that hot Yeah, I mean, it's hot right now. It's going to get hotter as the summer goes on. I don't know how people do these all-day tournaments. I haven't got to that level yet where my girls, they play one game each a day. I can't imagine them playing 2-3 games in the same day. That's going to be a long afternoon out of the ballpark.
I also failed to mention, you mentioned the heat. So for the final game, they play on a turf field. So it was, Sunday, 3:30, 82 degrees out. Somebody had like a little thermometer thing. The field turf, the turf itself was like 110 degrees because the black pellets under that thing are like roasting on fire. So one of the girls on the other team actually fell and burned herself and had to come. I don't know why I'm laughing at that. Had to come out of the game for a while because the actual turf was so hot. So there were just so many idiotic decisions. And luckily we win, so it makes it all better. But just a lot of cow of the week stuff. Just tons of cows.
Yeah. Well, youth sports gives you plenty of opportunities for cow of the week.
It really
it's
does.
Not the parents. Usually it is the parents. It's mostly the parents. Sometimes you get a jackass coach here and there. You feel horrible for the referees and the umpires. These guys are volunteering. They're getting paid very little. And the crap they have to put up with, I don't even understand. But, yeah, you try to do the right thing, put your girls in sports, keep them active, keep them, get them hanging around with the right kids, stay out of trouble, this and that, if anything. And maybe you get a girl that is really talented and she's got a shot at the next level. But just really to have them have fun and learn something and learn how to work with other people and in team situations. And then you get people like, the cow of the week, this guy, this coach, you get a jackass coach or some parents that just get in the way and are not in it for the right reasons. It kind of ruins the afternoon for everybody.
Really does, but luckily we came out with the title, so take that. And Mike, this show, I don't know if we're going to win a title for this particular episode, but I think it was a good one. Big thanks to Ryan Anders for hopping in. Again, big thanks to our sponsor at Gordon & Partners. Make sure you check them out, fortheinjured.com. If you have information that you want to share, maybe some questions, again, Michael Hoffman is your guy to do that. Thursday, the live show is back. Not that I went anywhere. We're back on Thursdays again this week, so I don't know what we have up our sleeve. We always have something, I'm sure, bouncing around, Mike. So we'll see everybody Thursday, 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Until then, Mike, I guess it's a wrap. I don't know if you object to this, but I think the show's over.
Yeah, that's good. It's late, so I'm ready to go to bed.
No objection from Mike, and that means we will end, and we'll talk to you all on Thursday. Everybody have a fantastic week. Go Knights.
Charge on.